No, listen to me. I have the documents, but I can't get out.
He's looking right at me. What do you mean they know?
A black hotel made answer to call in Dutch in front of a millionaire. The next day, he sent for her. Zoe's cell phone rang as she cleaned the floor of the luxurious lobby of the Grand Plaza Hotel. Normally, she would never answer during working hours, rule number 1 from manager Richards, especially for cleaning staff. But she recognized the number. It was the university. After 6 unsuccessful attempts to get a scholarship for her master's program in linguistics, this call could change everything. One moment, she whispered to herself, hiding behind an ornate marble column. That's when her life changed in seconds. Zoe Johnson. She answered discreetly, hoping not to be noticed by the guests passing through the lobby. The voice on the other end spoke in perfect Dutch. It was Professor Van Achton from the University of Amsterdam. Zoe responded immediately in the same language, her impeccable pronunciation flowing naturally as they discussed details of her application for the international program. Mijn motive was te laat on mogel, ib had 2 weken gelen verzanden. Zoe explained, concerned that her letter of motivation had supposedly not arrived on time. That was when she noticed the sudden silence around her. She looked up and saw Richard Coleman, the billionaire owner of the hotel chain, standing a few feet away, watching her with an undisguised look of surprise. Next to him was manager Richards, her eyes wide with fury. Zoe swallowed hard. I have to go. Ebel J later. Terry, she said hurriedly in Dutch, hanging up the phone. Johnson, in my office now. The manager's voice cut through the air. The walk to the small administrative office in the basement seemed endless. Zoe felt the stares of her colleagues, some pitying, others barely concealing their satisfaction. At 29, she was the only black woman in the cleaning department with a college degree, something that manager Richards made a point of constantly forgetting. You know the rules, Johnson. No phones during working hours, especially in common areas. Richards fired off as soon as she closed the door. And talking in what was that? French. Dutch. Zoe corrected instinctively, regretting it immediately. I don't care if it was Martian. What I care about is that Mr. Coleman, the owner of this hotel, saw a cleaning lady ignoring her duties to talk on the phone in the lobby. The injustice burned like acid. The white receptionists took personal calls regularly with no consequences, but Zoe knew what was going on. It was the same pattern as always. I'm assigning you to the convention center bathrooms for the next 3 months. Maybe there you can practice as many languages as you want without embarrassing the hotel. Zoe felt her stomach sink. The convention center meant double cleaning shifts after corporate events with no overtime. It was Richard's classic punishment for those who crossed the line. You can go, and be thankful you're not being fired. That night was one of the longest. In her small apartment shared with 2 fellow nurses, Zoe cried silently, staring at her linguistics degree and international certificates framed on the peeling wall. 6 years of cleaning hotel rooms while trying to save for a master's degree, while sending out resumes that never received a response after in-person interviews. The next morning, she arrived early, determined to show professionalism despite the injustice. That's when the phone at the front desk rang. Zoe Johnson called Jennifer, the head receptionist. Human Resources wants you right away. The HR department was on the top floor, next to the executive offices. Uncharted territory for cleaning staff. In the elevator, she felt invisible as always, surrounded by executives discussing million-dollar mergers without even noticing her. Johnson called the HR director as soon as she entered. Please have a seat. Zoe sat stiffly, preparing for the worst. Termination, most likely. Coleman has requested a meeting with you. Now, the owner's office was bigger than her entire apartment. Richard Coleman, at 45, was famous in the business world for turning bankrupt hotels into luxury properties, and now he was looking directly at her. Dutch, French, Italian, and Mandarin. Correct, he asked bluntly, consulting an open folder on the desk. Zoe blinked, confused. How did you resume? I asked HR for it as soon as I heard you yesterday. Honors degree in linguistics from Georgetown, fluent in 6 languages, 2 of them Asian, and cleaning my hotel for 6 years. What Zoe didn't know was that this moment was no coincidence. What no one in that hotel suspected was that behind that phone call in Dutch was a much bigger story, an unlikely connection that would not only transform Zoe's life, but expose a system of discrimination that for years had kept extraordinary talent hidden behind brooms and cleaning products. If this story of prejudice in the workplace stirs your indignation, sign up to find out how a simple phone call in a foreign language would become the catalyst for a turnaround that not even the most powerful billionaire could have predicted. For a few seconds, the office was completely silent. Zoe stood still, her mind processing what she had just heard. Richard Coleman knew who she was, really knew her, and not just as the invisible woman in a cleaning uniform that everyone ignored in the hallways. 6 years? Coleman repeated, closing the file and crossing his arms. May I ask why a Georgetown-educated linguist is cleaning my bathrooms instead of working on international translations? Zoe took a deep breath. I sent 47 resumes to the International Relations Department of this hotel, all ignored. I tried for an internal transfer 12 times, always denied. By whom? Manager Richards and Mr. Whitmore, Director of Operations. Coleman wrote down the names without batting an eyelid. Curious, Whitmore constantly complains about the lack of multilingual staff for our international clients. His eyes narrowed, especially for Asian conferences. What Coleman didn't say was that he had noticed a disturbing pattern. 3 months earlier, he had hired a consulting firm to discreetly investigate why his East Coast hotels had alarming turnover rates among qualified non-white employees. Zoe, I'll be blunt. Tomorrow, a trade conference with Dutch and Chinese business executives begins. I need someone who speaks both languages fluently and understands cultural nuances. And you want me to clean their rooms? Zoe asked, unable to hide her sarcasm. Coleman smiled briefly. I want you to be our international relations coordinator for the event, temporarily. Salary $5,000 a week, starting today. Zoe almost dropped her purse. It was more than she earned in 3 months. Why me? There are hundreds of qualified candidates. Because I heard you speaking Dutch like a native. Because you have the qualifications I need. And because I suspect there's something very wrong going on in my company. An hour later, Zoe stepped into the elevator with a new badge and full access to the hotel systems. On her way to HR to finalize the paperwork, she ran into Manager Richards. The shock on the woman's face was priceless. Johnson, what are you doing on this floor without a uniform working? Ems. Richards, International Relations Coordinator at the direct request of Mr. Coleman. Richards visibly palled. Impossible. You don't have the qualifications to Georgetown. Fluent in 6 languages, including Mandarin and Dutch. Zoe interrupted, maintaining a professional tone. My resume has been in the hotel's files for 6 years along with my 12 transfer requests. As the manager stammered out explanations, Zoe continued on her way. In the HR department, she found an unexpected ally, Zoe Williams, a newly hired recruitment analyst who showed genuine enthusiasm. Zoe, finally. I saw your file when I started 3 months ago and couldn't understand why someone with your qualifications was in housekeeping. Zoe confided as she arranged her transfer.